Welcome, everybody. It's Ted Prodromo, and this is Social Selling Television. And you can watch past episodes at socialsellingtelevision.com. And today's guest is Wally Waldron. And I met Wally, almost 2 years ago, I think, in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
Ken MacArthur event.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a room full of social sellers, if you will, right?
Right. Internet marketers, social sellers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a great event. I mean, we were talking about all the different social channels, Facebook and LinkedIn and Google and, whatever was hot then, and a lot of it's still hot now, and it just keeps going. It's amazing.
So, Wally, sometimes you meet people at conferences, and some people are like, oh, yeah, okay. But some people you just know get it. When I met you, I said, Wally gets it. He totally knows what he's doing. He's like one of those A players. How did you get started in this whole internet thing?
Oh, hey, I appreciate that. We both hit it off pretty quickly, didn't we? So yeah, I appreciate the compliment. I kind of felt the same way about you too. How did I get started in this whole internet thing? It depends on how far back you actually want to go. I was recently taking my kids on a bike ride, and I rode by a math building here on the local university campus, and I realized that it was been 20 years since I first built an email server with my own bare hands and then taught teachers and administrators at a high school how to use it when I was, not even in college yet. So the geekery goes pretty far back. But in a very real sense, probably somewhere around 2003, 2004 is when got started on the internet, and had always been very interested in technology and also human psychology and stuff like that. And I had this like really interesting experience where I had been out of school for a few years. I had been working in a corporation, and I didn't like it. I was like, something just isn't here. And
What kind of job were you doing?
You could call that entrepreneuritis, I guess. I had a case of the entrepreneuritis. What I was doing in those days was basically doing tech support for local accounting firm, and I also started taking on side customers as soon as I realized that you could figure out how to do such a thing. Mm-hmm. And it was pretty cool, because what happened was very quickly I started to become a ton more motivated because I became very goal oriented. I read a little book that goes around these parts that you've probably read, and you probably have on your shelf somewhere, Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
And I would hold it and I'd be like, the answer's in here. And I must have gone through this thing 3 or 4 times before I was finally able to, strike out on my own a number of years later. But how I got started was I set up my shingle as a side business. I got interested. I set the intention that I wanted this side business to become my full-time business. And really quickly, I had a very interesting dinner with a guy named Jim. And it was pretty cool. And I still look back on it now, I guess with thankfulness and reverence, because Jim and I have dinner, and I hand him a card, and he kind of looks at me and he's like, all right, he's checking me out a little bit. He's like, is this a business or is this a hobby? And I look him straight in the eyes and I'm like, this is a business. And it was funny because he was like, you know what I mean? Like waiting for the answer.
Right.
As I said, this is a business, with all this seriousness, he kind of smiles, a little twinkle in his eye, and he just goes, well, good. And what he proceeded to share with me over the next hour and a half was basically his own master plan. And it was all about information publishing and growing this audience on the internet and how to create passive income and scalable income and all this stuff. And we actually still work together to this very day. I was on the phone with him just a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
And, some of the particulars, of the vision have changed. I mean, this is like 12, 13 years ago, something like that. But the overall grand scheme of things that he had envisioned then, he's doing now. And it was one of these like eye-opening moments, because I sat there and I'm like, I understand technology, but I didn't know you could use it this way. And, it was right.
Yeah.
And that was the genesis of the whole thing. I figured, I just need to get in touch with people who are doing great things and help them get their marketing out there, help them get their message out there. And I knew that I'd be able to, make some pretty cool stuff happen. So
I think you said a couple of really important points there where I work with a lot of small business owners that are just getting started, and they treat it like a hobby. Treat their business like a real business.
Yeah, it's that bugs me. I mean, because it's like, right? I mean, you can't you can't do that and expect to have really, really good results, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you look at some of these. I mean, it's a game. Business is a game, right? But if you're going to play the game at some of the higher levels, then you're going to need to do some things every day, right? You're going to have some discipline. You're going to have your head in the right place, and you're going to have to practice. And, it's kind of the difference between maybe shooting hoops behind your house every so often. That's a hobby, right?
Right.
Or, doing what LeBron James just did recently, where that's a business, and that's a business at the highest level, right?
Yeah.
So,
I work with a lot of there's people they're still working in the corporate world, starting their own business, or even if they just launched. And I'll ask them, what's your marketing budget? And they'll say, I don't have any money to market. Like, their chances of succeeding are about zero at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I am literally speechless when right. I hear that though, right? And there's this lack of understanding, I think, a lot of times that your most important job as a business owner is actually to drive sales. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you personally are the person out there driving sales, although if you have no marketing budget, then you'd better be budgeting your time towards driving those sales, right? And, wherever you are, so I guess if you start super, super small, like a seed, and you're trying to grow into a tree, and you're trying to get that tree to start to, spit off more seeds and create the forest, like wherever you are is where you are, but it all starts up here. And if you're not treating it like a business and you come about it like, oh, well, I don't have a marketing budget, it's like time out for a second, because that's almost a tell that you haven't thought things through. So do you not understand the importance of sales in your business and how that is the entire lifeblood of your existence? Or do you not realize that other people can help you create more sales without you spending as much time doing it? Or do you just not know what to do?
They're a really good chiropractor, or they're really good something, fill in the blank.
Right.
Don't know how to run a business. And I was there.
Exactly.
I totally admit it. I went through the school.
Right. Yeah, because it's like you might know that you don't know, or you might not know what you don't know, if that makes sense.
Right. Exactly. And I spent a lot of time at networking groups. I went to BNI. I went to all those in person. So instead of spending money, I spent time. And then I looked at it like I was spending like 40 hours a month at BNI. Meeting with people. And was I really getting enough business from that?
Right. Yeah, and I've seen that a lot of times. And I think, when you're starting out, you may not know any better, right? And there's kind of the right way to use BNI, and there's the wrong way to use BNI. And I'm not even sure if the way that I would tell somebody to use BNI is something that I would share in a public forum like this, because it's sort of sneaky. It's a little bit guerrilla, and it involves building a list and then never going back to that particular group again. So if you kind of put the pieces together, you can see, how to sort of jujitsu that a little bit. But the thing is that a lot of people start there, but they're never building any sort of asset or never moving forward from there, right? And it's like, okay, so you got up and you gave your 30-minute speech, but who's in the room? It's a message to market match, right? Like, so do you have a good message? Great. But is it a good message to the people who are in front of you? Maybe your move is not to be in those rooms, but it's to figure out how to get, a one-to-many situation going, kind of like what we're doing right here, right? Like, we could have a conversation and we can share this with thousands and thousands of people over a period of time. This is a leveraged relationship for both of us and the people that we're building relationship with. And that's a much, much different game.
Yeah. BNI is great. It has its place. Definitely. It's very successful. And there are ways to make it work. But like you said, we can get the message to millions of people, literally.
Exactly. And
I was in like a group of 40 people. And we would go in
Right.
every Friday. We'd meet and have breakfast for 2 hours, and we'd all say almost the same speech every week.
Right.
Trade a few leads.
And I wonder if some of our viewers have experienced this, where the idea was that you were going to a group that would build your business, but actually it ended up being more of a support group where everybody just kind of whined about the same things and everybody was sort of circling the drain rather than helping each other grow.
Right.
Right. I mean, and it's a funny thing how that happens. And you know, it's interesting. What I've observed with those situations is a lot of times what it takes to help you grow doesn't feel good, at least not at first. It's uncomfortable.
It's scary.
It's exactly right. And then all of a sudden you keep doing it, right? That thing that hurt and was scary, you do it long enough, all of a sudden you look back and you're like, I'm so thankful that I did that, because that is where the genesis of my success has come from.
Right. Like speaking on stage. Boy, the first few times I did, woohoo.
Your blood pressure may have changed slightly.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, oh my God, what am I doing? I don't want to do this.
Yeah, right.
Now I love it.
Exactly. And that's, yeah.
Okay. I had a high-tech career for 20 years after the dot-com crash.
Yep.
That whole career was unavailable to me. I couldn't even go back to it. So I got certified as a personal coach.
Okay.
So what would you recommend? I'm just, come to you and says, I'm a coach.
Right.
What advice would you give me?
Say, okay. Well, I think the first thing that I would say is you have to consider a thing that I call the inner economy. And it's really all about knowing thyself, right? And so I'm a little skeptical the first time I hear like, oh, I'm a coach, because it's one of those things that I think it seems like it's crowded and there's too many of them out there, right?
Right.
And so when you're thinking in terms of the inner economy, what I've observed with coaches is oftentimes it's a lot like therapists. I'm a coach because I was in a situation that I didn't like. I used a coach. I liked being coached. I want to be a coach too because my hero helped me. So now I'm a coach.
Right.
Okay. That's okay. But that's often where that happens. Now from there, you need to, I think, consider I'm not a coach. I'm a business person who happens to sell coaching services. Do you sort of hear the difference in that inner dialogue?
That's completely different.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm a coach. Okay, everybody, I can go be a coach this afternoon. I have a park right down here. I can go coach some 5-year-olds on how to be soccer players.
There you go.
Right. I mean, I'm a coach. Okay, I'm a business person who sells coaching services. Again, very, very different. And that's where it really starts, is like that inner dialogue, right?
Yeah.
And so from that self-image starts to resonate outward where that person is coming from. And so then from there, I'm a business person who sells coaching services. I think the most important thing in a crowded environment like that is, what is your unique 10%? And I've taught this and I've written about this for years and years and years, because this is the coolest thing I think ever, if you really, really get it from a marketing perspective. And that is, you as Ted have something completely unique to yourself that nobody else in the entire world has. It makes you unique. Like, you are the one and only Ted Prodromo.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
And I'm the one and only Wally Waldron. And what I put out into the world, that is my unique 10%. There's a lot of overlap as to what you do out there as well.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff I can't put it together the way you put it together. There's a lot of stuff you can't put it together the way I put it together. And what's cool about that is you will resonate with certain people naturally just by being brave and putting that out there in a certain way. And I will resonate with certain people and we'll have some of that cross-pollination. But everybody who chooses to really do that and come out there and be unique, they will start to resonate with their perfect match. And it's exactly as you've said, that first time you get up on stage or something like that, it's totally, totally scary, because that's when you stop kind of just checking off the book thing,
right,
and figuring out, how do I integrate what the book taught me and then put it back out into the universe in a way that you're being authentic.
Yeah. And that's what I teach my clients when I do their LinkedIn profile. In the
Yeah.
summary, a lot of people repeat their job experience. I said, no, people want to get to know, like, and trust you. So tell your story there. Be vulnerable.
Right.
I write
Right.
about my career's crashed 3 times in 15 years, not by my fault. The economy collapsed,
Yeah. Right.
I put that story out there, and people really compliment me on that.
Yep. And because what's really happening there is that somebody is going, oh my gosh, like that person understands what I'm going through because I'm going through that right now.
Right.
And if you come back to the example that you're coming from, which is, hey, I want to be a coach. I'm going to say I want to be a business person who happens to sell coaching services.
Right.
But you want to be a successful coach. What are you really doing except trying to put a message out there that resonates so that more people will be attracted to you? I mean, that's why people are attracted to the big names, and that's probably how they, this individual that we're talking about, got attracted to that profession to begin with.
Right. And I think if people, so instead of saying I'm a coach, and they say I have to be a business person selling coaching, I don't want any part of that.
Right. Right. And that's really one of the things, that we're talking about, like how do people kind of step out of, I always like to say, escape the shackles of corporate slavery, because I'm a little insane about it. But, for some people, it's actually like very scary. They don't feel like they escaped. They feel like they got kicked off the island.
Right.
And, right. That not everybody sat there one day and decided that it wasn't for them. Some people thought it was for them and thought they had a plan, and things got messed up. And so wherever you are is where you are. But what's cool is, like, if you're in this game long enough, you start to realize there's a few things that just always work. And it's back to, they don't always feel like they're working while they're working either. And so marketing is much like this, right? You're going to have to throw out 10 messages and hope that 1 or 2 of them hit. And if you're batting 300, it's just like baseball. If you're getting 3 out of 10 things that are working for you in marketing out of the 10 things you're doing, you are going to do amazing.
Yeah.
And that's actually, that becomes a personal frustration of mine sometimes, is, people will come and ask for help with something and expect, like, oh, I waited way too long. I'm in a tough situation. Wally, will you throw some Hail Marys for me so that we can, score a touchdown? And it's like,
right.
We can try, but the ball might just get intercepted, or it might just get dropped.
Right. Marketing's a journey, not a destination.
It sure is. And it's a practice. And that's kind of like how I like to think of it, is because it's a journey, right? And there's going to be a windy road, right?
Yeah.
And most of the time, I know you're a skier, I'm a skier, so this will probably resonate for at least the 2 of us, hopefully some others. But if you're trying to get to the top of the mountain, like, if you drive up it, the road always goes like this, right?
Right.
Very, very rarely, only from a few hours a day, can you get on the gondola and just go, right?
Yep.
Not even open all the year long or anything, right? And so, but hiking or walking your way up to the top of the mountain is always available to you. And that's the practice, right? That's the hard way, but you can always get there that way.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always hold very dear, and I think that is important for the entrepreneur, coming back to the mindset shift, is for many years built my entire business on this, and I can't stop now. And that is the one daily practice of one sales activity a day. And what that means is that you commit so deeply that every day that you work, you will not go to bed before you've done one sales activity to move that business forward. And in some cases, that's phone calls. In some cases, that's getting more people to come into the restaurant. In some cases, that's doing email marketing. In some cases, that's engaging with someone to help you with marketing. There's a lot of different things, but it has to be something that's going to drive demand and drive you forward.
That's a great point. Once a day. Yeah. You've got to be trying to get people to buy.
Mm-hmm. I
know a lot of people, they do really good marketing, but they never ask for a sale.
Right. I mean, it's, there's a few things that you do every day, right? You probably get up and put a clean set of clothes on. Hopefully you usually shower. You probably brush your teeth.
Yep.
So along with that short list of things that you do every single day, this is the brushing of the teeth.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that hard, but you said earlier, set the intention and have a plan.
Right.
That's really important. Could say more about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the inner game is very, very important. And, you know, I don't know if it gets acknowledged enough as to the true importance of it. And so setting the intention is, you know, it's important, I think, for people to set their own definition of success, first of all. Where are you going 3 years from now? Right? Like, I have my own definition of what that looks like. It's written down. I check it regularly. I surround myself with it. The most successful people who I know in my network, they do the same kind of thing. Right. And it's a practice. So the first thing we're doing is orienting the compass, right? But then importantly, I think, is committing to that, right? Like, okay, I know I want to get here, but what am I doing today to incrementally move myself forward? Right. And I think I think you've kind of spoken to that a little bit today, where, you know, it's a million small actions that people need to take to be successful and to move their business forward. Right. Right. And I know, you know, some of the, bright shiny object peddlers on the internet, or you know, folks who would maybe try to gloss over how easy it actually is to be an entrepreneur. You know, they're going to want you to you know, think that, hey, you know what, you just buy a couple of these ebooks and, you know, do a few of these things and all of a sudden magic's going to happen. Right. And you know, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's just not that's not how it works. It maybe worked 10 years ago, but not anymore. Exactly. And it probably worked for less people than we think it did. Right. Maybe 3 people. Exactly. And you know, I mean the thing that's true is that, you know, the internet's moving faster every day. It's moving in a million different directions. And you know, but people don't change. And so I think you have to come up for air once in a while and realize that this is a situation where people are still people. And I was speaking to, you know, the concept of psychology earlier, and you know, we've talked a lot about inner psychology, but it's also other people's inner psychologies. That's what we're actually interacting with. Right. And there's still just one other person at the end of that computer, that screen, that, gosh forbid, direct mail piece that might get sent out. Right. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that you're speaking to another human being. And if your marketing resonates with something that they either have pain around, it's pain or gain, right? Or they want to gain, then you have a chance to do some business there. They have a problem that you can solve for them. That's really important. I teach the same thing with my LinkedIn. It's like, those are humans on the other side. You don't need to spam them. Pretend we're sitting at Starbucks having a conversation just like we're having now. Yep. Treat them like a human, and they respond. Yeah, and you know, humans are funny, right? Because they don't usually buy right away, because, you know, let's think about the dating model for a minute, right? Mm-hmm. It's not usually called dating if you're making the sale on the first night, right? Right. That's a different profession. And so there's there's an art and a science to it, and it takes some courtship, and it takes some effort, and it takes as long as it needs to take if that person is really worth it to you. Right. And you kind of have to think about it the same way in business. You have to continue to allow people the opportunity to do business with you and keep putting your message out there to show them some value that you create in the world. But ultimately, you know, it's got to line up like this. Yeah. You build relationships, you get long-term customers. Those people refer you customers. It's a sustainable business. Yep, exactly. Or like the dating, you go to Tinder, you can get your success instantly, but that's right. That's right. Sustainable business. Exactly. And at what cost to your long-term success, right? So yeah. So what kind of businesses do you work with? Yeah, so you know, typically the businesses that I'll work with are doing $250,000 or up of revenue. And speaking to what we were talking about, the reason for that is because we've typically found that a business who can allocate around 10% of their revenue towards marketing will basically, well, the way we do it, they can usually expect about a 3-to-1 return on that investment. And so what I found is that smaller than that, they probably need a business coach, or they need to be doing it themselves, or they need more guidance and stuff like that. And then kind of how it tranches up is from about $250,000 a year to about $1 million a year. You typically have a certain set of problems. And so that's like layer one. And then from 1 to 3, that tends to be a different set of problems. And those are the two main, I guess, areas where I can be of great value. After 3 million, you're usually looking, you're bringing in full teams by yourself at that point, and having a full executive board and stuff like that. But in those two tranches between, say, startup to functional, above startup to functional, so the 250 to $1 million tranche, a lot of times folks will have a lot of benefit from sort of they'll work with us and have me sit with them and help them with strategy and then the execution over a period of time. We're able to kind of work different ways to make sure that they get exactly what they need when they need it, but it's in a way that doesn't break their budget. And then that next level up, a lot of times they'll basically use me as like a fractional CMO. And so, we're looking at something that is kind of taboo in marketing circles, but I'm going to say it, which is marketing that is also measurable and accountable. So,
oh my gosh.
I know. So we actually put numbers in effect and, do things like partner with them for growth and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So you're kind of like a business coach, a strategist, and then you help them implement their marketing plans.
Yes, exactly. And so what's cool about how we're set up, and I'm not even sure if I've ever shared this with you personally, and that's what's great about these kind of things, is, we have a small little core here stateside because, there's you need a person who speaks the language as part of your culture and stuff like that. But we have a whole bunch of implementation teams. We actually have a factory full of people sitting over in Lithuania right now who will just crank out whatever marketing plan we put together. And, 4 to 6 months, you're in a very different place. And so if you can imagine taking the sophistication of, like a Procter and Gamble level sophistication knowledge-wise, but being able to import it into that $250,000 a year revenue company, think of what that would do for you.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty much what we do.
Right. Yeah. Once you get the system built, it's step by step by step.
Exactly.
And it's the same. You can plug it into a $100,000 business or $1 million business.
Exactly. And then kind of I guess the best part about that, especially for the smaller entrepreneurs and stuff like that, is, and this is actually really where the passion lies, is now you have options. And you remember we were talking about everybody you create your own version of success, right?
Yeah.
So the second practice as you get that sales thing going is scales. What I mean by that is scaling your business up or maybe scaling out of your own business. And if you think of the math really quick, so an entrepreneur, a really good entrepreneur is going to say, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I work 110% of the time. And I just, I never turn it off. And it's like, I'm going to call timeout and call BS on this.
Yeah.
So, and I'm going to show you a better way. So first we're going to check the math here. First of all, 100% is as much as we can possibly do.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of that's just reality.
The way math works.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, it's math, right?
Yeah.
But then, you have to do things like sleep and take a rest and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's at least a third of your time. So now you're down to about 66% of your time. You still have to eat. You still have to, S and all this, other bodily function things. So reality-wise, if you work all the time, you're probably talking about 25% of your entire life's existence.
Mm-hmm.
And so the model that I propose is, let's do this. Let's take that 25% and then chop it into 5. So 5 times 5. And let's spend 5% getting a business rolling. Mm-hmm. And then 5% getting the next business rolling, and then 5% getting the next business rolling. And let's just shove that other 10% away for a second. If we can get that first business rolling so that we're only spending 5% of our overall time on it, and we can get the second one rolling and the third one rolling, you now have options because you have scaled out of your businesses. You have more time. You're still getting not quite as big of a paycheck, but you're getting it from multiple sources now. So it kind of solves the multiple streams of income thing. And you have assets that, if you're doing it right, are now saleable assets.
That's very important.
So it's kind of a different thing. And what we call that, as opposed to serial entrepreneurialism, is parallel entrepreneurialism, because you're actually moving in parallel with multiple businesses. And you might just you move one and then bring another one in, or whatever you end up doing there. But that's where the, instead of your wealth kind of doing one of these, you have an event now and again.
Yeah.
Life is good.
I've seen programs like you get to build a website, you get it selling, make $100 a day, you build another one, you make $100 a day there.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it works on small scale, it works on big scale. And so you just have to figure out what's right for you and where you want to play with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great advice. People don't sit back and think about it. It's like, I'm quitting my job. That's what they think. I hate my boss.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, now what?
Right. Exactly. It's and so, yeah, I think the best thing, it's like, if somebody is in that situation right now, my best advice is go on the longest walk you've been on in a really, really long time, and just really think this thing through. Think 3 years ahead of time. Realize that for all the stuff that you don't like about your current situation, you're going to have some things that you don't like about your new one. It's okay, because I'll take the battle of being an entrepreneur any day of the week compared to the battles that you face in the other environment. But I think it's just important, kind of think through what that success looks like for you.
So how do you keep current? You mentioned something about there's like your peers or something you meet together, or?
Yeah, totally. So one of the things that I do is I'll meet. We started putting on workshops, actually, and so of course I'm a member of a number of masterminds. I'm sure you are as well. And it's important to find groups and peer groups where they've done all these studies, and it's you are the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most, right? Yeah. And so what's really cool about that, I think, is this counts as a hangout. I mean, right? I mean, you can. Geography is not really a problem anymore with that kind of thing. So
not at all.
No, not at all. So I mean, I have some local ones. There's a direct response mastermind that I'm a part of, and I mean, you can't get into this thing. Basically, it happened naturally, and it's one of those deals where we were talking about how we met and kind of resonated a few years ago. It's one of those deals where the relationships that started. They're almost 10 years old in a lot of cases in this group. And because we all played in the same space long enough, somebody came up with the bright idea, like, why don't we formalize this every couple months and actually get together? And of course, everybody's success is just, going up a whole nother level as a result of that.
Right.
And then there's some other groups, vetted groups that, I'll pay a nice chunk of change and take a week at a time to actually go to and hobnob, or whatever you want to call it, right?
Right.
And make friends, just like we did. Ken MacArthur's group, great group that he always puts together, and so there's a number of them, and one of my companies has actually put together some executive entrepreneur retreats that we're doing. We're doing one pretty soon in Napa Valley at the end of August. We're doing another one in Jackson Hole here in September, so we can enjoy the leaves. Nice. And looks like we'll be doing another one in Florida also in October, because the first 2 are starting to sell out. So
nice.
Yeah.
So you got to invest some time and some money in your learning and networking.
You really do. You really do. And I mean, the best money that I ever spent, let's go back all the way to the beginning when I was working with Jim. Yeah. And Jim told me that master plan that he was putting together. He also shared with me that he was an inaugural member of a 12-person mastermind. And what he started doing was he made a deal with me, and he said, I'll give you I'll send you leads out of this mastermind, and you kick me a 10% commission for that. And happy to all day long, right?
Yeah.
To this very day, I still I'm still in contact with Jim. I still help him with his business. I still have 2 other contacts who I've done business with in the last month out of that initial group. And we've all sort of come up in the industry together. We've all, had all sorts of adventures. And, just from those 3 people, if I think about the reach, it's just incredible.
Yeah. No, I love being part of groups because I work at home alone. I have a team that's virtual.
Yep.
But it's great to just go bounce ideas off people that have been through it.
Absolutely. I mean, there's really there's no substitute for it, and it'll never go out of style. I mean, getting yourself, one of the fun games to try to play is, how can I get into a room where I'm the dumbest guy in the room?
Right.
Because if you want to get a lot smarter really quick, get in the room where you're the dumbest guy in the room, right?
Yeah.
Because I guarantee if you're thinking that way, you're already pretty smart. So you're just going to, it's just going to go exponential from there.
And that's one of the core fundamentals of the Think and Grow Rich book.
Yep.
He was part of he had a virtual mastermind where he actually talked to himself, had visionaries,
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that until you just said that. Yeah, he totally did.
Like Ben Franklin and all these
right,
incredible people were his virtual mastermind.
That's right. Yep. And he got so clear with that he actually stopped for a while because he freaked himself out at how real the conversations were getting.
Right. Yep. Well, this has been great. So how do people get a hold of you, Wally?
Yeah, so the best way is probably to check out wallywaldron.com. And that just kind of gives you an overview, like you said, sort of a little bit about my story and how I help people. And there's some information on the bottom there if you want to take the relationship further. Would love to have you.
Great. Hey, thanks for your time. This has been really great catching up with you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Ted.
Okay, we'll talk soon.